everybody to rise for the national anthem, please.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे
I request our clairvoyant of finance, Mr. Anil Lamba, Ms. Shraddha Gulecha, Ms. Anil, Ms. Kamlesh, and Ms. Lakshmi Rao to please join us for the lighting of the lamp, and Ms. Sonali Saraf. Ms. Usha Rani Mane, Ms. Vani Subhash, sorry? Yeah. Well, this is a special gesture that we have done, that we will be inviting people who are attending all the events regularly, our special honored, our respected old members and people from different fraternities like a doctors group to join us for the lamp lighting from now onwards. Financial Literacy Cell is a pan-India initiative which will focus on empowering women from all walks of life to become more financially independent and secure. The action plan for FLC through the year will be to provide knowledge for women from different segments in tailored approach. For the white-collared women, we will provide sessions and workshops to increase awareness. For school and college students, we propose to facilitate courses to start early in financial education. For women at grassroots level, we are curating special programs so that they can take charge of their families' finances and children's education. Yeah, I would now request all past chairs, first the past chair picture we'll do. Yeah, first the past chair picture, please. Can you assist them? Pictures with the past chair. Come, Sonali, you can join, please. Executive committee members, core committee, executive committee. Yeah. I extend a warm welcome to our guest, Ms. Monika Halan. We can have a big round of applause for our speakers, please. Can we request Y-Flow committee to join us near the dais for the pictures, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. I would now like to invite our chairperson, Ms. Shubhra Maheshwari, Mr. Anil Lamba, and Ms. Monika Halan to grace the dais. I would now request Ms. Shubhra Maheshwari to share her welcome address.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is going to be a serious session, so I hope everybody is done with their cups of teas and coffee. When you decided to come here this afternoon, you made that conscious choice to learn, and that makes you class apart. You moved out of the masses. A rainy day, a sunny day, any day. It's a perfect day for a walk in the depths of learning. Our esteemed speakers today, Dr. Anil Lamba and Ms. Monika Halan, are here to talk to us about how we can establish a firm command over our professional as well as our personal finances and achieve true financial freedom. I'm positive we can all benefit from their experiences, their insights on romancing the balance sheet, and tips on making our money work for us. We at Flow Hyderabad have successfully completed 4 months of the new financial term, and we are incredibly proud of the work we have done in the first 3 months specifically. Every team and member has contributed generously with their time and energies to ensure that we are well on the path to achieve the vision we set for ourselves this year, making meaningful impact for our members and the society at large. Forever grateful to our mentors and the past chairs who are always ready to share their wisdom and guidance in all our endeavors. Our national initiative, Financial Literacy, has been very dear to me, and leading the initiative at National has been my way of shouldering responsibility and busting myths like women are not good with finances. Money management is an essential tool for not just women but for all. It's important to invest time in learning this skill. Flow Hyderabad is a fraternity consisting of entrepreneurs and professionals who must deal with personal finances and take care of the finances of the company. We earn, but then why do we look back on that man in the house, the husband, the brother, the son, the father, to take care of the finances? We have earned that money and we look at somebody else to invest and make it grow. Why? Let's learn it ourselves. So today we bring to you two essential topics which, if incorporated into lives, will efficiently empower each one of us. Now, a little recap about the month that just went by, July. Under the Financial Literacy Initiative, we were invited by the US Consulate to organize a talk for them and their members. We conducted an I-Mentorship online workshop in association with ICICI Securities, which was open for Pan India. And we also conducted a learning workshop for 100 students at McLean Skill Academy. We also organized a talk for school children of the Bansi Lalpet Government School, organized by our Seed to Succeed head. And I must tell you, it was brilliant teaching these small children the power of compounding. Invest rupees 10 today and see what you get later. And children were fascinated. Are we aware of the power of compounding? I'm not sure, but we can learn. We are open to learning. Seed to Succeed initiative organized a counseling session on values and ethics for 150 students. They organized a trainer, Mr. Fanindra, who's a national level trainer, and he spoke about the importance of gratefulness, gratitude, kindness, and appreciation. It was a beautiful session. I myself sat in the classroom while this was done. Impact Initiative organized a limb donation camp where members got a chance to interact with and learn about the process of how limb donation works. And we were able to contribute towards facilitating limbs for 30 people. We have pledged to donate 140 limbs from Flow Hyderabad with the support of our members. The Women's Skilling and Support Initiative organized a 2-day government certified skilling workshop on agarbatti making for 22 women from the slum area near Indranagar as a way of creating a source of income for women in that area. Skilling is a permanent source of livelihood, and Flow Hyderabad is very positive about imparting skilling to whoever requires. Subscription renewal, I've been talking about this since last 4 months, requesting all of you to renew your subscription. If you have not done that so far, the time has come. You may stop receiving the notifications and the invites for the event. So if you people missed us last 15 days, we just gave you a recap. We were thoroughly busy and we worked a lot at the grassroots level last 15 days. When the going gets tough, only the financially intelligent survive. Hone your Shakti, Samarthya and Shaurya, my dear friends, because she is us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhra. I would now request Shubhra to felicitate our guest speakers, Mr. Anil Lamba and Ms. Monika Halan, with Flow Memento. Dr. Anil Lamba is a best-selling author, financial literacy activist, and an international corporate trainer. CA by profession, he holds degrees in commerce, law, and doctorate in taxation. Dr. Lamba's training programs are held internationally with client list exceeding 3,000 corporations and spread over countries. He has conceptualized and is actively engaged in the implementation of financially intelligent organization and financial literacy for all. He has also written several books, Romancing the Balance Sheet, Flirting with Stocks, Eye on the Bottom Line, and Financial Affairs of the Common Man, and over 1,500 articles. Welcome, sir. Monika Halan is a trusted personal finance writer, speaker, and author who helps families get their money decisions right. She is the founder of Dhan Chakra Financial Education and the best-selling author of Let's Talk Money. She has a master's in economics from the Delhi School of Economics and a second master's in journalism studies from College of Cardiff, University of Wales, UK. Monika has public policy experience as member of the task force set up by the Government of India to put in place the Financial Redressal Agency, member on the SEBI Mutual Fund Advisory Committee, member on the Ministry of Finance Committee on Incentives. Welcome, ma'am. With grace and gratitude, I would now request Mr. Anil Lamba to take the session forward.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for inviting me here today. Great pleasure. Time allotted is extremely short. Normally, if somebody gives me about 7-8 hours, I complain the time is not enough. So I'm going to get right down to it. I'll just test if this works or doesn't work. Folks, my topic is romancing the balance sheet, so it's obvious we'll leave the personal finance to Monika, and I'm going to be talking about how many of you are in business? Fantastic, fantastic. So those of you who are in business, this would be more relevant, even though I think everybody should prepare a personal balance sheet also. Let me begin by asking you a question. Tell me, if I ask you to define, how do you describe this company? Can I say this is a leading automobile manufacturing company? How do you describe this company? They are a leading IT services. What about this one? They are a leading hospitality company. Are these answers correct? These are absolutely wrong. Folks, all these three names that I put over there, or for that matter, any name that I could have put over there, are all in the same business. And never to forget that the business of running a business enterprise is to make profit. Their methods are different. Tata Motor does it through making automobiles, and Hilton does it through providing hospitality, but the objective is to make profit. Another question I'd like to ask you, how many of you right now attending this session are non-finance people? None of you are. Once again, absolutely wrong. None of you are non-finance people. So that raises an interesting question. What do I mean all of you are finance people? You must be saying, I have studied something else, I do something else, I am a homemaker, I am a manufacturer, I am a services provider. What do you mean, Anil, we are all finance people? Folks, who is a finance person? What is the job of a finance person? Is it the job of a finance person to track financial information, to collect financial data, to record that data, collate that data, present that data, to prepare financial statements like profit loss accounts and balance sheets? Is that the job of the finance person? Answer is no. That is the job of the accounts person. So had my question been, how many of you are non-accounting professionals, then if your hands had gone up, I would have agreed with you. But folks, if collecting, recording, presenting financial information is not finance management, then what is finance management? I'll give you my definition now. I think finance management is merely the ability on the part of every individual in the organization to understand the financial implication of whatever you're doing. You could be in sales, you could be in HR, you could be in manufacturing, you could be in purchase. Every action that you take has a financial implication. When a salesperson takes a selling decision, the price at which he sells when he is negotiating, the terms on which you have sold is a financial decision, not a sales decision alone. Every decision of an HR person has a financial implication. Every purchase decision has a financial implication. Tell me, when do organizations make a profit? You understand 24/7, whatever every individual within an organization is doing, that person's actions are either adding to the bottom line or taking away from it. Profit is a result when a larger percentage of people do things by which the bottom line becomes stronger and lesser number of people hurt it. Folks, people like me, the finance professionals, are not there when finance management is happening. We come into the picture afterwards, we do a post-mortem and tell you whether the organization has made a profit or a loss. So tell me, who's the real finance person? By the time the finance professionals come in, it's too late. Unless financial literacy goes top to bottom within an organization. An organization cannot be financially intelligent. So finance management or mismanagement is happening 24/7 in every action of every individual. But I do understand when you say you are non-finance, you are expressing your knowledge gaps. Folks, let me give you a quick look at how much time do I have? Till 4 o'clock, right? Seriously? You should have told me that earlier. Okay. Since the topic is romancing the balance sheet, I have no choice but to introduce you to this statement, but a little different look, not what the usual one is. We all are aware that balance sheet lists out assets and liabilities. What do liabilities represent? Liabilities means what you owe. Why do you owe that money? You must have taken it, therefore you owe. So liabilities actually represent where the money has come from. It represents sources of money. What are assets? Assets are things that you own, things that you possess. And how did you get to own them? You must have spent the money and acquired them. So assets tell you what you did with the money. Where does money come from typically in any organization? Let's say somebody, can I take one of your names? What's your name, ma'am? Anyone? Yeah? Sonali. Let's say Sonali starts a new business. Are you in business already? What do you do? Okay, let's go into manufacturing. Let's say she starts a furniture manufacturing organization. Shall we do that? Okay. She sets up a furniture manufacturing organization and calls it Sonali Furnitures, SF. Now folks, when a business starts, it needs money. Where will Sonali Furnitures get money from? The first person it will go to is Sonali. Sonali, give us money. She says, how much do you want? Let's start with relatively big numbers. This company says, I want 1,000 crores. And let's say Sonali says, I'm not interested in giving you 1,000 crores, but I don't mind giving you 400 crores. 400 will be called her capital. Of course, if there are a number of owners, then the owners are called shareholders and the capital is called share capital. But the requirement was 1,000. So for the remaining 600, they go to a bank or somebody. First thing I'm trying to tell you is, please understand, when an organization needs money, how many options does it have? One, borrow. Who does it borrow from? It borrows from the owner. That this could be a slight contradiction in terms, you don't borrow from owners, you borrow from outsiders. But so far as Sonali Furnitures is concerned, Sonali is also an outsider. They have borrowed from her, the business has borrowed from the bank. Since both are in the nature of borrowings, both appear as liabilities. What is the difference between owner as a lender and outsider as a lender? Outsiders don't take risks. They want a guaranteed return. Because they want a guaranteed return, they're given a limited return, let's say in this case 10%. Owners say we are willing to take a risk, which means if you don't earn, we will take nothing. But then the owners say to compensate for that risk, when you do earn, they tell the business. And after everybody's been paid off, we will take everything, right? So folks, imagine this organization borrows 400 crores from Sonali, 600 crores from a banker, 1,000 crores are now deployed on the right-hand side, wonderful assets are purchased, these assets are put into use, and now this company starts generating revenue. Imagine on deployment of 1,000 crores, they generate a sales revenue of about 3,000 crores. Now so far nobody's been paid. I want all of you to visualize and tell me how many groups of claimants can you visualize standing in a line saying we want a share of that 3,000 crores. When an organization generates revenue, amongst how many groups of people does it get distributed? Employees have to be paid salaries, landlord has to be paid rent, vendors have to be paid, travel agency, printer, stationer, water, telephone, but these are items, I want groups. Can I say all these items comprise one group called operating expenses? So one group standing in a line, operating expenses. Pardon my speed, I'm only trying to go fast so that I can finish, I can do some logical level. Okay, group number one, operating expenses. Group number two, group number three, group number four, Folks, doesn't matter what business you are in, doesn't matter where you are located, whatever sales revenue your organization will generate will get distributed between these four groups. That's it. But not in this order. Can you help me choose the order? Whose claim are they going to entertain first? Country needs more people like you. But no, government not yet. Don't be in a hurry to pay the government, guys. No. Operating expenses. First of the month comes, you got to pay salary. Landlord has to be paid. Overheads have to be paid. Imagine this company's operating expenses are 1600 crores. How much are you left with? What is this 1400 called? No. For gross profit, I will have to divide this 1600 into two parts. When I minus the first part, it's gross profit. When I minus the second part, this is either called operating profit, or what kind of profit is this? This is that stage of profit where from sales you have recovered the operating expenses, but you still have not paid dividend to the shareholder. You still haven't paid interest to the lender. You still haven't paid income tax to the government. So this is also called PBIT, profit before interest and tax, or it is called earnings before interest and tax, EBIT. Now how many groups are left? 3. Whose turn now? Now we pay the lenders. This company has borrowed 600 crores at the rate of 10%. So they pay 60. That gives you 1340. What is this 1340 called? From PBIT, I has been paid. So that gives you PBT. Now 2 groups are left, government and shareholders. Who will be paid now? Now we pay the government. Let's imagine you pay the government about 340. That gives you 1000 crores. This is called profit after tax. Who does this belong to? Our shareholder happens to be Sonali. So now in the line, Sonali will be standing there. She says, Sonali Furnitures, I had said, if you don't earn, I will take nothing. But then when you do earn, and after everybody's been paid off, I will take everything. So she says, now please give this 1000 crores to me. But when this company wanted her money, it had gone and made all kinds of rash promises to her. That yes, Sonali, all the profit will be given to you and this and that. But now that it's time to actually give it to her, they start having a change of heart. They start negotiating with her. They say, Sonali, we said all the profit belongs to you, and of course, it does belong to you. You are the owner ultimately. But they say, Sonali, how much money did you give us? 400 crores. They say, had you not given this 400 to us, had you instead put it in a bank, how much would you have earned? Nowadays, not even 5%. If you had put it in fixed deposit, perhaps somewhat higher than 5%, in bonds, 8, 9, 10% in risky ventures, 15, 18, 20%, they say, Sonali, we can give you 30%. Or we can go up to 40%. Maybe we can stretch up to 50%. But Sonali, don't take the entire 1000 crores away. Why are they saying this? Are they trying to cheat her? Answer is no. Ultimately, she's the owner. Then why aren't they giving it to her? Have you noticed? No company gives the entire profit to shareholders. My question is, why not? The original condition of the shareholder was that if you don't earn, I will take nothing. You appreciate, had this company not earned, this part of the bargain they would have honored completely. The second part of the bargain was when you do earn, and after everybody's been paid off, we will take everything, and the company had agreed. Why are they not giving it to her? Why don't companies give entire profit to shareholders? They want to reinvest. And they want to keep aside for emergencies, for things like pandemics, etc. Nobody knew that can happen. They want for further growth. They want, whenever I ask this question, I get these similar answers. And my reaction always is, I will accept all your answers as reason number 2 for not giving it to her. But there's a more important reason number 1, why this profit is not being given to her. You see, my point is, all this they knew even before, right? Then while taking money from her, why couldn't they tell her some money we'll keep for working capital, some money we'll keep for expansion, some we'll keep for emergencies? My answer is, all these reasons are Reason number 2 for not giving it to her. But there is an even more important reason. Number 1, fault is mine. I haven't explained that. We jumped right into this. Had I preceded this lecture with about 4-5 hours of more input, I would have explained it to you. But one of the first things any entrepreneur experiences after starting the business is that there is no connection between the profit that a business makes and the bank balance that it has. But I think there is a connection. I think there's an inverse relationship. The greater the profit that you make, lower the bank balance that you have. This statement needs a lot of explanation from me, but take my word for it. Every entrepreneur has experienced it. The basic mystery that confronts a business person is accountants tell me so much turnover, so much profit is happening, but where is the money? In the bank, I don't seem to have money to pay salary for this year, for this month. Folks, what I'm trying to tell you is, if this company has a profit of 1,000 crores, and even if they would love to give it to Sonali, but to give it to Sonali, they not only need a profit, they'll need a bank balance of 1,000 crores, which according to me is impossible. A company making a profit of 1,000 crores, which is accompanied by a bank balance of 1,000 crores is impossible, but a company making a profit of 1,000 crores, which is accompanied by a bank balance of negative 600 crore, absolutely possible. And the first and the most practical reason, therefore, why this profit is not being given to her is, where is the money? This statement comes from the bottom of the heart of most entrepreneurs. Assuming this company, by chance, did have not only a profit of 1,000, but also a bank balance of 1,000 crores, they still would not have given it to her. Then your other arguments would have come in about emergencies and growth and expansion and so on. In short, all the reasons put together, they will convince Sonali, had you put your 400 crores anywhere else, you would have earned 5%, 10%, 20%. We can give you 30, 40, 50, but don't take the entire 1,000 crores away. And who is Sonali? She's the owner of the business. She understands, if this is in the interest of the organization not to give it to me, and I happen to be the owner of this organization, then it is in my interest not to take it away. She said, no problem, Sonali Furnitures, you can't give me 1,000 crores, how much can you give me? 50%? Give me 50%. How much money did Sonali invest in this company? How much is 50% of 400? So give her 200. How much is left now? Who does this belong to? Who does it belong to? Who does it belong to? It does not belong to the company, it continues to belong to Sonali. When Sonali agreed to take home 200 crores out of the promised 1,000 crores, she did not waive her right over the remaining 800. She simply said, Sonali Furnitures, you don't have 1,000 crores to give me, doesn't matter. How much can you give me? 200? Give me 200, use my 800 crores. So tell me, till yesterday, how much money did this company owe her? 400. Today, how much money does this company owe her? The original 400 they still owe. And now they owe her another 800. So this profit that you do not distribute becomes a further liability on the business, and it appears in your balance sheet under a heading called reserves. Now tell me, what is this 4 plus 8, 1200 together called? This is now called Sonali's, no, capital is still 400. This is now called the shareholders' net worth. Or imagine this was a public limited company. They had raised 400 crores by way of a public issue of shares. How did they raise 400? They probably issued 40 crore shares, each carrying a face value of 10. And then out of every year's profit, a certain amount of profit they used to distribute, a certain amount of profit they used to retain. After a few years, the profit retained by this company has mounted to 800 crores. Today, the net worth of the shareholders of this company has become 1,200 crores. Tell me, 1,200 crores is the net worth of how many shares? 40 crore shares. So what is the value of each share? 1,200 divided by 40. That's 30 bucks. What is the 30 rupees called? This is now called the book value per share. Folks, here is a company having shares carrying a face value of 10, A 10 rupee face value share is now enjoying a book value of 30. Now go to the stock market and find out how much is this share trading in the stock market for. There it could be for 50, it could be for 500, it could be for 5,000 also. That can be an irrational place at times. That is called the market value. Folks, where did we start this conversation? This conversation began when I asked you, what do liabilities represent? I said they represent sources. I was trying to prove to you. Do these items represent sources? Is the first item a source? Yes. Who gave it to you? The owner. Is the second item a source? Yes. Who gave it to you? Again, the owner. In the first case, the owner physically invested the money. In the second case, she didn't invest the money, but she left behind something that she could have legitimately taken home. Is the third item a source of money? Yes. Who gave it to you? Some outsider, some banker, some lender. But you are aware, organizations not only go to banks and borrow money, they start going to suppliers and vendors and say, can you supply goods and services and we'll pay you a month, 2 months, 3 months later? So instead of borrowing money, they start borrowing goods and services. Those items also appear over here as creditor. You will now recognize the left-hand side of the balance sheet is merely a collection of sources. How many sources are there in any organization? Answer is 2. Owners contribute, outsiders contribute. Both contribute in 2 ways, direct and indirect. So far, are we okay? Most important question to be answered is, why is Sonali Furnitures borrowing money from everybody? It is borrowing from Sonali, it is borrowing from outsiders, it is borrowing directly, borrowing indirectly. Do you think this is an arbitrary collection of money, or must it be as per a plan? Do you think this is a random collection of sources? Must it be as per a design? It better be as per a design, but it is not funny how often it is not. And when this money comes without a specific plan in mind, this organization has then sown the seeds of sickness even before the business takes off. Folks, let's imagine for a minute this money had come without a plan. They collected money from whoever they could, whatever they could. What will happen, folks, if this was a random collection of sources? If this money has come without a specific plan in mind, now Sonali will find when she starts investing this money on behalf of Sonali Furnitures, she will either discover that halfway through acquisition of assets she will run out of money, or she will discover she was able to buy all the assets that she needed and there was money left over. Folks, if money comes without a plan, you are either going to run short of money or you will have excess money. Tell me, which is a happier state of affairs? Should an organization have less money than it needs, or should it have more money than it needs? Let's examine both. Let's say Sonali wanted to start a hotel. She wanted to build a 100-storied building. Money came without a plan. When she started the construction of the building, by the time she reached the 60th floor, she ran out of money. How will she run the hotel? Folks, if you have less money than you need, you will get into trouble. If you have more money than you need, I think you'll get into bigger trouble. I am now giving you a mantra of good finance management, and that mantra says, please remember, less is bad, more is worse. Don't have the time to explain why. I need about an hour if I have to explain this statement. But take my word for it, this rule applies across life. If you are a manufacturing company, what kind of installed capacity should you have in your factory? Less than necessary or more than necessary? How much inventory should you maintain in your warehouse? Less than necessary or more than necessary? What kind of manpower should you have on the rolls? Less or more? How much blood pressure should we have in our body? Less is bad, more is. This rule applies across life. So folks, what I'm trying to tell you is, therefore, how much money an organization raises is a matter of art. If you raise less money than you need, your business will get into trouble. If you raise more money than you need, you'll probably get into bigger trouble. How that will happen? My fault. I haven't explained. I need a lot of time to do so. And how do you know how much money you should raise? That answer will be given to you by the right side of your balance sheet. And therefore, if you are in a position to start a new business, a new enterprise, a new project, I think the first exercise you must do is to prepare an imaginary balance sheet of the business or project that you intend to do. And which side of the imaginary balance sheet should you make first? Answer is right hand side. Visualize till the last penny possible. That if this business of mine has to succeed, if this project of mine has to see the light of day, then how much money do I need? How much do I need for land? How much for building? How much? And no guessing, folks. If you say I need so much money for land, I assume this was preceded by you went and scouted for land, shortlisted the land, negotiated a price, maybe signed a document to freeze the price. Then you are saying so much money. Every figure should be a thought out figure. Now once your right hand side is ready, what do? Total it up. Let's say it comes to 1,000 crores. Now you realize for this business to be a success, I need 1,000 crores. Now look inside. How much does Sonali have? She has 400. So the next realistic exercise you have to do, okay, then where's the difference going to come from? Who's going to be willing to lend it to me? This is called capital structure planning. Pardon me for giving you such a large dose in such a short time. Now, once your blueprint is ready, so much money is required, this is the way I propose to get it. Now when you start the real thing, folks, start with the left-hand side. First invest the money that you propose investing out of pocket. Simultaneously start the borrowing process. And once money comes in, you start investing. Now please help me visualize right side of this balance sheet. What will Sonali do with this money? A sizable proportion she is going to use to buy the infrastructure to make furniture, correct? She will buy land, building, plant, machinery. All these items are reflected under a heading called fixed assets. Let Sonali invest substantial portion on the acquisition of infrastructure, but she better make sure that she does not exhaust her resources in the process of creating infrastructure alone. She has to make sure once infrastructure is set up, she has more money left. Why? Because she will now require a continuous supply of something known as working capital. Quickly, we'll visualize components of working capital. Why does she need working capital? Folks, having invested a huge amount in infrastructure, next day if a customer walks in and says, I want to buy 100 crores of furniture from you, she'll be lucky enough to get the order. She'll have to be exceptionally lucky for the customer to say, I'm giving you an order of 100 crores and I brought a check of 100 crores. That will not happen in all likelihood. And now she'll have to spend money on buying the wood, maybe 50, 60 crores. So she needs to buy and maintain inventory. Now this order of 100 crores needs about 3 months to be executed. But next week is the first of the month and her employees are waiting for salary and overheads have to be paid. She needs to hold on to sufficient cash in hand. And after spending a lot of money, the product is ready and the customer will in all likelihood say, thank you very much, Sonali. I'm buying it and you can come 60 days later and collect your check. Not only she may not get advance, she may not even get paid on delivery, and she has to finance her customers also. Those items also appear as assets. This is the fastest introduction I could have given you to a balance sheet. What does the left-hand side tell you? Where the money has come from. Right-hand side tells you where it has gone. Where does it come from? Two sources. Owners, outsiders. Where does it go? Two avenues. It goes towards creation of infrastructure, goes towards supply of working capital. I did this because it is important for you to understand this for me to take you to the next level. Now folks, a few years back, Reserve Bank of India conducted a study of all the sick businesses in the country, businesses that had failed. And the idea was to find out why do businesses fail. If we do some brainstorming amongst ourselves, folks, why do you think businesses fail? We are all aware India started a globalization, liberalization program with effect from 91. Before 91, we were not that open as an economy. There were domestic players who were not necessarily the best in the world, but they were managing to survive. And why were they surviving? Because there was no competition, very little competition. So we had a Hindustan Motors and an Ambassador car and all those other companies which were still surviving. 1991, India opened up its doors. Foreign players came in. These foreign players probably had the latest technology at their disposal. Now I want you to do some brainstorming and tell me, do you agree with me? Do you think it is possible that in the post-91 era, some domestic players must have found, now competition has come up with foreign players, from foreign players. These guys have the latest technology at their disposal. Compared to them, our technology is out of date, and we don't have the money to buy new technology. Do you think it is possible that in the post-91 phase, some domestic players must have become technologically obsolete? Do you think technological obsolescence could have been responsible for a certain portion of sickness in industry? There could be a second category of entrepreneurs who technology-wise were as good as anybody else. Their problem was not the ability to make. Their weakness was they knew how to make, but they didn't know how to sell. Do you think marketing inefficiency can lead to sickness? There could be a third category of entrepreneurs who knew how to make and who knew how to sell, but their misfortune was they had a very militant and unreasonable trade unions, which went on extended periods of strike. For months, production came to a halt. Do you think labor problem can lead to sickness? Reserve Bank of India conducted a study of all the sick businesses in the country, and their study has found that out of all the businesses that had failed, over 95% did not fail for any of these three reasons. That means these three reasons and some more must have been responsible for not even 5% of business failures, and over 95% businesses failed due to one reason. And I've given you Indian statistics, but my statistics applies all over the world. It is an undisputed fact that in the world, for every 10 businesses that shut down, more than 9 shut down due to bad finance management. And recent history has told us not only companies have shut down, entire countries and economies have shut down due to bad finance management. The entire subprime crisis of the United States can be attributed solely to bad finance management. As we speak right now, there are countries in Europe, Greece, Portugal, Spain, Italy, there are countries in South America, Venezuela, our neighbor right now, latest victim added to the list, Sri Lanka. But what does it mean? What does it mean when I say 90 to 95% businesses fail due to bad finance management? I will tell you what it means to me. If someone came to me and said, you know, Anil, my business shut down. Why? I became technologically obsolete. I don't understand how to blame him. This poor guy finds suddenly a giant has come up in front of him as a competitor. This giant is miles ahead in technology. Compared to that fellow, his technology is out of date, doesn't have money to buy new technology. How can you blame him? If somebody says, my business failed due to labor problems, sympathies go out to him. How do you blame him? But when somebody says, my business failed due to financial mismanagement, I think the entire blame lies in his shoulder. Why did he shut down? Because the real finance people say we are non-finance. Remember that? How many of you are non-finance? And because we have a flawed perception about who a finance person is, the price paid is 90 to 95% business failures happen due to this. So folks, when I stand in front of groups of people like you and I go on and on how important finance management is, what a price we pay for bad finance management. And therefore, what is required in every organization is the practice of good finance management. And when will good finance management happen in your company? Only when everybody recognizes it's my responsibility. When I go on and on like this, chances are one of you gets up and says, okay, Anil, I'm convinced. I'm convinced finance management very important. And in my organization, good finance management can only happen when mine is good, my finance management is good. Then your next logical question to me will be, Anil, can you tell us what is good finance management so that we can start practicing from tomorrow? When somebody would ask me this question, my response used to be, I'm sorry, good finance management is not a two-line definition. It's a whole subject, it's a whole philosophy. It takes years to learn. And then I used to feel the unfairness of it all. What am I doing? I am first communicating to you how important the subject is. I am perhaps creating in you a desire that I'm willing to take the efforts to learn. And when you say I'm willing, I'm ready, I say I'm sorry, I have no answers for you. I used to wonder, can I give you a magic formula? Folks, you want to practice good finance management from tomorrow, here is a magic formula. Do this from tomorrow, good finance management will happen. Now, obviously, there are no magic formulae. But what I have is something pretty close to that. Folks, I will give you what, in my opinion, is good finance management, presented to you in the form of two rules. Let's call them the two golden rules of good finance management. My complete conviction is, you understand these two rules. Good news is they're very easy to understand. I've always said the entire subject of finance is purely common sense, it's not rocket science. These two rules are also common sense rules. You understand these two rules if you internalize these two rules. If you promise me never to violate these two rules, I will promise you, most problems that others suffer from on account of bad finance management, you will not. I'll obviously not do justice because I'll give you in 5 minutes, but each rule deserves an hour and a half, 2 hours of discussion. But in a nutshell, I'm going to give you both the rules. Are you all ready? Two golden rules of good finance management. If you promise me never to violate them, I will promise you majority of problem that affects others, you will not be affected by them. And please understand, a majority of problem that affects others are financial mismanagement related. Now, to understand these two rules, you need to be on the same page with me as this, which is why I made you run through this. What does this tell you? Left-hand side tells you where the money has come from. Right-hand side tells you what you did with the money. Where does it come from? How many sources? 2. Owners, outsiders. How many users? 2. Fixed assets, working capital. How many components of working capital? 3. Inventory, cash, debtors. First rule says, folks, if the left-hand side of the balance sheet represents sources and the right-hand side represents users, then the first rule says, you must always remember, never ever forget, that out of all the sources appearing on the left-hand side, none are free. Money is not free, sources come at a cost. You might say, okay, so what? So what if sources come at a cost? What did we do with these sources? We deployed them on the right-hand side. What did we acquire out of these sources? We have acquired some fantastic assets for ourselves. And what kind of assets are these? Hopefully, these are productive assets. So folks, if sources of money on the left-hand side have a cost attached to them, then the utilization of money appearing on the right-hand side possess an ability to earn. An ability to earn is associated with them. And the first fundamental common sense rule of good finance management says, you should never ever invest your money in any activity, business, project, without ensuring that what you can earn from right-hand side is at least equal to, preferably greater than, the corresponding cost of the left-hand side. What does the rule say? Recognize, left side of the balance sheet has a cost. Right side of the balance sheet possesses an ability to earn. You should invest your money in any business only after ensuring that what you can earn from the right-hand side is either equal to or greater than the cost of capital. How many of you know your business's cost of capital? 2 hands have gone up, 3 hands. Now, my experience is if I was addressing a room full of 100 entrepreneurs, and I do it very often with your parent company, FICCI, and CII, and YPO, and EOs, and if there are 100 entrepreneurs, each one reasonably large, and you ask them, how many of you know your cost of capital? For the first 15 to 30 seconds after asking this question, nothing happens. Then reluctantly, like this, 1, 2, 3 hands go up. And then when I start quizzing them, I realize their interpretation of cost of capital and what I would have said if I had the time would be poles apart. In fact, before you tell me cost of capital, you got to tell me how much is the capital of this company. How much is the capital of this company, folks? Do you know that? How much? How much? I'm giving you options. Which one is the correct figure? I think for the purpose of this discussion, you must interpret the word capital to mean 1,000. What is the logic of this rule that I gave you? The logic is the left-hand side of the balance sheet has a cost, and therefore the right-hand side of the balance sheet has an obligation to earn at least equal to the cost. What is the total of the left-hand side? 1,000. I need to know what this 1,000 costs me so that the 1,000 on the right can earn for me at least that much. But folks, on the one hand, this rule is so elementary that to understand this rule, you don't even need to be literate. Even illiterates understand this. What do I mean by that? Let's say you catch an illiterate fellow, tell him there is a money lender sitting over there. Tell him, will you go to that money lender and borrow maybe 10,000 rupees? This illiterate person goes to the money lender, borrows 10,000, but the money lender says, you know, I'm going to charge you 15% interest. Now, the moment this illiterate person walks out of the money lender's shop, you intercept this person and tell him, give this 10,000 to me and I will give you 10%. What answer will you get? This is what the rule is, right? It says never ever invest unless you can earn equal to or greater than cost of capital. This illiterate guy will say, I can't give it to you because what you offered me is violating golden rule number 1. So folks, on the one hand, I'm saying this is a golden rule. On the other hand, I'm saying even illiterates understand. Your reaction will be, Anil, if everybody already understands, why are you calling it a golden rule? You will be amazed. You will be amazed, ladies, what an illiterate person will not do. How many large corporations there are that are guilty of doing? What are they guilty of doing? They are guilty of investing their money into avenues where they are not even generating a return which is even equal to the cost of capital, and what is scary is they don't even know it. Again, don't have the time to explain this statement of mine. You'll say, how can it be? First you're saying illiterates understand. Then you are expecting us to believe large corporations, professionals working over there. Are you saying they don't understand? Since I don't have time to explain this to you, I'll just share with you, I read a report by Bain & Company, one of the most respected companies in the world. Bain & Company said that in the US, 9 out of 10 businesses routinely fail to earn even the equal to the cost of capital. 9 out of 10. What does it mean? It means where this illiterate fellow said no, 9 out of 10 in US would have said yes. And if that's the case of US, you can imagine what must be the case over here. You went to this, give me 2 minutes more. You went to this illiterate person, you said, give me this 10,000, I will pay you 10%. What answer did you get? No. Why not? He said, I'm paying 15. How can I give it to you at 10? Let's say you tell this illiterate person, okay, you're paying 15, I understand. I'll be happy to give you 20%. Will this person give it to you now? Is this investment opportunity satisfying rule 1? But he still may not give it to you. Why will he not give it to you now? He may not give it to you if this investment opportunity, which is satisfying rule 1, is perhaps not satisfying rule 2, which I haven't told you yet. In fact, rule 2, I want you guys to draft it yourselves. I'm going to give you the situation, you tell me the rule. When this illiterate person went to the money lender, I want to borrow 10,000. Money lender said, okay, but I will charge you 15% interest. And the money lender said, borrower, one more condition. Condition number 2 is make sure you return this money to me in the next 1 month. You went to this fellow, you said, give it to me, I'll pay you 20%. And I will return the money after 2 months. Now here's an investment opportunity that satisfies rule 1 but fails to satisfy rule 2, still should not be taken up. Can you help me put rule 2 into words? Rule 2 says also don't forget. First, what did I tell you not to forget? Money is not free. Rule 2 says also don't forget, none of these sources on the left are gifts. Under what heading do we show them? What does it mean? It means every person who has lent you the money today is the same person who will be standing outside your door tomorrow. I want my money back. But folks, you took this money and deployed it on the right hand side. But these people on the left are going to expect it back. How will you give it back? And therefore, rule number 2 says, invest your money in such a way that the assets will bring it back before the liabilities ask for it back. To give you in a nutshell, rule 1 says investment in assets must generate a return which is at least equal to the cost of capital. Rule number 2 says assets must bring a cash inflow before the liabilities demand an outflow. These are not standard rules, these are my rules, but bring me any sick company's balance sheet and I will show you which of the 2 rules was violated. Had they not violated the 2 rules, they would not be sick. If you can remember these 2 rules, if you don't understand anything about finance management except these 2 rules, you will still be able to avoid 80 to 90% of financial mismanagement pitfalls that others get into. Thank you very much. Extremely sorry for the speed at which I went. That was only out of a concern so that I can take you to a logical end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful session. The floor is now open for question and answers. I request the members who have questions to first please state their name and then ask their question.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Nanda Rao. Could you please give a small example of less is bad, more is worse?
Several examples that I give you are all there. Your question should be, how can more be worse? Like take manpower, take inventory, take, if a customer comes, they expect credit. Should you give less credit or more credit? Each one is wrong. If you stop giving credit, if you give less, you may lose the customer. But if you could have sold on a 30-day credit, if you offer 90-day credit, this has become more. If you have a 100-ton installed capacity in your factory, and if you're producing 60 tons, that 40 is extra. That is bad. But if you have an order of 120 tons and then you have a 100-ton installed capacity, that's worse. So question is, how can more be worse? One can understand less is bad. You know, the thing that I haven't explained to you is a concept called an asset called a non-performing asset. In the light of what I said, you know, left-hand side has a cost. I didn't take you through what the cost is. According to me, the average cost of most companies would be about 20%. Okay, if I would have illustrated it to you. Let's say your sources cost you 20%. Now, when will you survive? When will you justify the existence of this business? If the left-hand side costs 20, right should earn 20. Now, all the assets that don't earn come under the category of non-performing. Again, my experience is on an average, if any of you make a list of your assets, you'll probably find half of them are performing, half will not be performing, if you are a lucky organization. Otherwise, the non-performing can be higher. Now, left-hand side costs you 20%. Right should earn 20%, but half the right-hand side doesn't earn. So the other half will have to earn 40%. So the greater the non-performing assets, the greater the burden on the performing ones. So more is non-performing. Less means shortages. If you keep less inventory, what will happen? You have an important order being executed, and halfway through that, there's no inventory. Less is bad. And if you keep more inventory than you need, it's more. More means non-performing. Any asset that doesn't perform, the performing one will have to work harder for it. And the biggest non-performing asset is money in the bank. So if you have a lot of money in the bank, nothing to be happy about. You should lose your sleep. You can't make profit in a business by hoarding money in a bank. It should be out earning for you. See, that applies even to money. Less is bad, more is worse.
Good afternoon. My name is Ananda. Thank you for a great insightful session. My question is, how do you define the value of a company in a market? When someone says this is the value of a company, what is it?
Matter of negotiation.
Okay.
All formulae are backwards. You first buyer and seller agree, and then you go backward and see which formula. Otherwise, how do you justify any of the valuation that happen in front of you? There are methods, of course, in a listed company to the stock, and there are various theoretical formulae are there. I can give you a whole day session on that. But I'm saying by and large, you come out with any valuation as per a formula. If the seller is not going to pay, you'll probably negotiate and agree at an amount. You first agree the amount and then go backwards and see which formula does it fit into.
So my name is Kavita Rai. This is with regarding to your golden rule, which says assets must bring a cash flow before the liabilities demand and outflow. A liability like cash credit has to be returned within 365 days.
Theoretically.
Yes. Do you
Cash
mean
credit
to say?
otherwise become the longest source
Yeah,
of
but
money.
you mean to say I have to have my inflow of?
This is a practical approach. When people come knocking on your doors, at that point you got to make sure either the money exists or you can go to some doors saying, can I have my money so I can pay my liabilities? If you don't, when the liquid assets are not enough to meet the liabilities, then you're forced to sell your fixed assets to pay those
No,
liabilities.
sure, it can be in the form of inventory also. When
Inventory,
don't-
not at all. Inventory is
when
non-liquid.
inventory does not transpire to sales, the money is, your profit is there, your money is blocked there. But that doesn't mean that I have the money inflow to repay my liabilities at any point of time.
No. Those liabilities will become due. Let's say tomorrow, somebody is going to come knocking on your door saying, 10 crore wapas karo. At that time, correspondingly, there should be assets which are either already in cash or those assets to whom you can go knocking saying, can I have my money so you can pay them. If this falls short, then you'll be forced to sell the fixed assets to pay those, and therefore Kingfisher, therefore Jet Airways, therefore ILFS, therefore Amtech Auto,
No,
therefore
sure
SR.
enough, sir, but it's very difficult. Your money is
I've
either
got case
with your,
studies to support this. This is what I do for a living.
either in your inventory or with your debtors.
Give me 8 hours of your time and I will prove to you. I'm finding it odd how to give in 2 seconds. This is what has caused the demise of these companies. Had these companies taken this seriously, they would still be around. There's a company in Chennai called Subiksha. And this happens even when situations are in your favor. Subiksha was a group of supermarkets. In a supermarket, whatever you buy on credit. Every customer on the way out gives you cash. You're sitting in extra cash. And because you're sitting on extra cash, because you're growing too fast, you use that extra cash because you don't have to pay the fellow for the next 60 days. So you use it to open the next store and the next store. And when short-term money goes and finances long-term assets, you are writing your own demise.
That is a diversion of funds.
That is exactly what will happen if your short-term money is lesser than short-term liabilities.
Yeah.
This is eventually dovetails to that.
No, I was just talking of current assets to current liabilities. I'm saying being an entrepreneur, it's not always possible.
I wish, give me one day and I'll transform you.
Okay, thanks.
But dangerous thinking you have right now, please rectify it. Otherwise, you and your business are going to pay a price for it.
Thank you, Mr. Anilji, for answering all the questions patiently.
Thank you.
I request Hima Reddy to take the autograph of Mr. Anilji. I request Alka Agarwal to please escort Miss Monika Halan to the dais. I request Ms. Monika Halan to please take the session forward.
And this goes, how do I move? Thank you so much. So, you know, one myth that got broken today is when Anil is speaking and saying that even businesses don't know how to manage money. My proposition used to be that the businesses seem to manage very well, and we in our personal spaces tend not to manage. But that myth for me has got broken that businesses also don't know what to do. My conversation today will be purely in terms of the importance of personal wealth management for women. And that's a topic which is very dear to my heart because, you know, over the years, I have understood that for a variety of reasons, women hand over control. Can I have the PPT up, please? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay. So, how do you, which one? I want to go back. It's stuck up a bit. No? Yeah, okay. Which is? This is the first one. This is next. Okay, this is next. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, variety of reasons why women tend not to control money, their money in their own households. They can be working inside the house. So, all women work. Women can work inside and outside the home. So the first thing is when somebody says, are you working? The answer always is yes, because even homemakers work. They work very hard. So women who work outside of the home do actually two jobs. And one of the reasons is that we don't have time, because especially when you're working both inside and outside the home, the way that society is structured, not just in India but across the world, is that women take a disproportionate burden of the household work. Okay, so the words that we tend to use is that my husband helps. Okay, in the word help, you have already defined what the relationship is. Should it not be share? Because both of you are working outside the home. So there is a disproportionate burden that working women outside the house take. So the one job that the men are happy to take is the financial management of the money, how it is invested. The women tend to run the households. They tend to do the monthly expenditures. So wherever the numbers are in 3 zeros, the women tend to take that on. Whenever it is in 5 and 6 zeros, and long term it's handed over to the men. One is confidence. So socially we are not brought up in the households. It's always said that, you know, you don't have a head for maths. Girls, you know, I'm too pretty to know numbers. You know, so we tend to put ourselves down, that I'm too cute to understand numbers. And you're just taking a knife and sticking it into yourself, all right? Because, you know, if you can run a washing machine, you can drive a car, you can manage the Indian joint family, you can manage money. There is no problem with that, okay? Managing the Indian joint family will come right at the top of the pops, isn't that so? You can manage it, but we don't because of the conditioning. And remember, it's also about the assets. If women don't know enough, the asking of the share of the family wealth will not happen. So most girls, when they get married, there is a certain amount. We can call it by polite words like gifts or whatever, but it is, you know, that dowry is really a share of the father's wealth which goes to the girl. We've got laws about it now, but traditionally this is what has happened. And woe befall a woman who asks for a share in the in-laws' house. And I can speak about business families that I know. You become immediately the bad person, the vamp, should you dare to ask for assets. So it's, you know, it helps society to keep women underconfident about money, and the financial sector doesn't help. Because, and this is a story, so I was buying a car. The salesman didn't know that I do this for a living, you know, money. And he's saying, you know, so I was asking EMI, I was asking cost, I was trying to look at mileage. He's saying, ma'am, color kaun sa chahiye? You know, I was like, okay, this is not happening.
he's trying to deflect. It was a gender thing. Ma'am, color kaun sa chahiye? And I'm asking about the EMI interest. So there was a Barbie in the 70s, I think, in the US. If you picked her up, she said, math is hard, let's go shopping. And they found that STEM enrollments in science and maths in the US fell after this doll was introduced, because it's again conditioning to women that you're too cute to understand these things. But we need to understand that we're being kept out. See, whoever controls the money has power. We know it in our own individual homes. We know it in companies. The finance guys are the big shots. Whoever holds money holds power. Why should it not be us? It's not something that is tough, like Anil said. It's not rocket science, all right? It is not difficult at all. So, and we harm ourselves. I have no head for numbers, I don't have time, my husband's not like that. We put ourselves last. Women take breaks for maternity. Who takes an off when the kid is ill? Tell me, who takes an off? Mother takes an off. If there's an extended family, if the mother-in-law is ill or the mom, who leaves the career? It's the woman. Who gets the provident fund? Who accumulates more provident fund? It's the man. Who quits the job to take care of children? It's the woman, right? So men end up at retirement far richer than women. In most relationships, it doesn't matter, but when it does, when it breaks down, we are at such a terrible disadvantage. We've handed our power away. We've just given it away. All of us know women through diverse situations. Again, the social messaging is about women cleaning men out. That's complete nonsense, and we know it, isn't it? We all know how difficult. Just to get custody of the kids, we hand everything over. Isn't that so? So don't believe this thing that money doesn't matter. We can manage. So the reason that we need to control money is that men die first. I'm not being rude, but women outlive men. So we should be that point of intergeneration. Is that true, right? I think we take death far too seriously. We'll all die. We don't think we will, but we will die. So we should be that point in the intergenerational wealth transfer, right? So because we outlive men as the dowager of the family, why should it go from father to son? Why should it not come to me, and then I decide if I'm treated well, who I give it to? All right, so this thing that all children get an equal share, no, you treat me well, you get a larger share. You know, so we also have to understand that money is power, and that intergenerational transfer of wealth has to happen through me. I'm going to skip through this because basically there are more single women, there are same-sex marriages. So if there are two women getting married, who's going to manage money? The father of the two girls, the brothers, who? Divorces are far more common. Single women are preferring to live single. At some point in your life, you will have to take ownership. Why not begin early? And we'll do baby steps. We'll see how to do this easily. I'm going to skip over some of this stuff. Okay, so just essentially, this is, I call Dhan Chakra. I'm going to talk very basic stuff. As a factor of production, we are labor, right? We can call ourselves manager, CEO, whatever. But when this labor goes to work, so we can be entrepreneur, but the entrepreneur also has to go to work. 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, technology. We are labor. When we go to work, we earn an income, right? It can be salary. When you run a business, you still take a salary. So you have, imagine a money box, and this money box fills with different kinds of money: salary, rent, interest, dividend, profit. It's important to understand what these are. Oh, I'm going back, sorry. Okay. And then every month, and this is not rocket science, there is living cost, there is taxes, and there's EMI. And this is saving, right? Income minus expenses is saving. This is not something that we don't know. But here is where you begin to start your control. Is your saving a residue or is it a target? So now you think in your own life. So when I do these talks, it's a direction that I show, you personalize it in your own lives. So in each of your stories, is this saving left over? Or is it a target that you've made? And based on that, will determine what you do in the future. And this is the interesting part. So we are very good savers. India's saving rates have been very high. But savings is either cash or it sits in a savings deposit with very little interest. It's below inflation. The important thing where we all freeze is turning savings into investments. So even if saving is a residue, kuch bachta hai, something is left. There are only 3 ways to turn savings into investment. There are thousands of products. They will all collapse into 3 ways. There are 3 roads which take your savings to becoming investments. Debt, equity, and real assets. Debt, fixed deposits, bonds, public provident fund. Derivatives like debt, mutual funds will also come in debt. It's the safer part of the portfolio. It's fixed interest return. You are lending to a bank. You are lending to the government when you invest in a public provident fund. Yes, this is the safer part of your portfolio. Equity, either as an entrepreneur, you have equity in your business, or into somebody else's business through direct stocks or mutual funds. Real assets are gold and real estate. Cryptocurrency is not an asset. It's nonsense. So it doesn't fit into my world at all. There's no underlying. 3 ways to convert savings into investment. Whoever comes to you selling any product, you have to understand it will collapse into one of these 3 asset classes, they are called. Okay, these are big words, but it's just words. If you understand what it is, it's debt is fixed interest. It's a lend, you have lent to somebody. Equity is your share capital. Real assets are physical assets, real estate, gold. These are also getting financialized through gold ETFs and REITs. Not going to get into that. These investments have a return, rent, interest, dividend, profit. And in the early years when labor is young, you have larger salary income, very little of investment income, rent, interest, dividend, profit. And in the later years, this factor of production can get too old, too sick, too outcompeted by technology and skills, simply unwilling to go to work. When you retire, whether it's at 40, 50, 60, 80 or never, what fills your money box will be investment income, rent, interest, dividend, profit. And this is the Dhan Chakra, that you decide when is that day when you stop going to work so that your money box every month will fill with rent, interest, dividend, profit, not salary. Okay, so that's a decision that you make. When is it that I stop depending on somebody to pay me a salary? And my money box is filling with rent, interest, dividend, profit. These are all coming out of what? Debt, equity, real assets. Okay? I'm going to do very, very quickly a basic, very simple. So when people talk of investments, they talk about very high-flown things of let's do portfolio, let's do mid-cap, small-cap. I'm saying baby steps. First thing, we want to get cash flows in order. Just as a company needs to understand cash flows, and we heard from Anil how important cash flow management is. That's what kills a business. It kills our personal finances also. Is it true that we say, I don't know how much I'm spending every month? I don't know where my money goes. That's because we mix up all our money. The way that I found that it worked for me, and it's worked for thousands of other people, is I created 3 bank accounts. And I've called them different names. I've given them personalities. The first is my income account. Any money which comes into my life, in my world, there's no space for cash. There's no space for non-tax paid money. So this only works for tax paid money. And India is becoming more formalized. It's a good idea to formalize all of the income because the cost of not paying taxes is increasing more and more and more. So my first bank account I'm calling income account. Any money which comes into my life goes into this account. So at any moment, I have oversight of what is coming in. I know approximately how much I spend every month. Budgeting is boring. And again, personalize it. If you're earning a lakh, you know you're spending about 60,000. If you're earning 10 lakh, you may still be spending only 2 lakh. You may not be, proportionately, we don't spend that much. At the top of the month, you're transferring from income account to your spend it account. Second account is called spend it account. You're transferring that amount of money which you plan to spend every month. Take 6 months to put this in place. There's no hurry. So when people talk about investment, there's this opportunity will go away. You have to decide now. I'm saying you have a lifetime ahead. Take it easy. Give yourself 6 months to develop this basic cash flow. The third account I call my invest it account. And remember, savings was a residue or a target. Whatever it is goes to the third account, which I call my invest it account. I'm not investing yet. I'm just getting the rhythm of understanding what I spend every month and what is my potential to save. At the end of 6 months, what I've heard most often is this: I had no idea I could save this much. Because people see thousands and lakhs in the third account, which they had, it was all mixed up. And they had no idea that the potential to save regularly, month after month, you get empowered when you see the thousands and the lakhs in the third account, which is my invested account. We are not starting to invest. It's going to come much later. This also keeps you out of debt, because if nothing is going into the third account, you need to worry. If you're taking on too much debt, there'll be nothing left to pass on to the invested account. First product we buy, first thing we create is not a portfolio. We create what is called an emergency fund. The pandemic really taught us all a hard lesson. The people who had 6 months of living money navigated the pandemic. There were job layoffs, salaries got cut. It was a tough time. Thumb rule is between 6 months to 2 years of your monthly living. If you're spending a lakh a month, you need a minimum of 6 lakhs. In what? It has to be liquid. What does it mean? Emergencies do not announce. It can be a job loss, it can be a pandemic, it can be whatever. They happen instantly. So this has to be liquid, which means it cannot be real estate, isn't it? You can't sell a kitchen. You have to sell the whole thing. It takes a long time. I don't like real estate. For the emergency funds, you'll need something liquid. Bank fixed deposits are great. You can get out of a 5-year fixed deposit by losing only half a percentage point of interest. So if you were getting 6, you'll get 5.5 if you break midway. If you understand debt funds, those are great products. If you don't, please start reading, because they are tax advantage, they are liquid. So this is where you start building your first financial product, which is an emergency fund. And then these are the ratios which we need to keep in mind, which is, how am I doing? How much am I spending? Approximately 50%, half of your take home. It's not relevant to people who are entrepreneurs, but yet you draw a salary, so it becomes important in that way. You keep your loans to about 30% of your take home, and your savings, you must do about 20% of your take home. Again, these are not solid, hard rules, because in your early years, you may not have that elbow room. By your mid-40s, your 40s, you may have the elbow room to save much more. So cash flow emergency ratios. The third thing is, do not bundle life insurance with investments. You need to have sensible insurances, your medical insurance, your life insurance. Life insurance is only needed for people who have dependents. People buy it for tax breaks, they buy it for I don't know what reasons. I think you need to go and see your own portfolios of your family, to see what is it that you have bought. So bundled insurance policies are a trap. So endowment, money back, whole life, these are traps, and I will show you how none of you should be in these products. So when we go to a bank, the agents also sell, very hard sell these products, isn't it? They do so because the first year commission on a bundled insurance plan is legally 42 rupees out of 100. Out of 1 lakh, 42,000 legally goes to the agent. Illegally, they take almost 80 to 100% of your first premium as commission. That is why they hard sell it so much. So, second year onwards, the commission drops to 7.5%. You're all in some way related to enterprise. What is the incentive for the agent? In the first year, he's getting legally 42. Second year onwards, he's getting 7.5% for the entire duration of that policy, which is 15 to 20 years. What is he going to do? He's going to encourage you to leave this policy after a few years and buy a new one, isn't it? Because the malai is in the first year. 7.5, when he can get 80,000 rupees on your 1 lakh premium, why will he settle for 7.5? And that is when the story becomes very sad, because the regulator has put in rules which encourage companies to encourage early surrender. Because the rules allow companies to charge you very high, what are called surrender charges. And they'll never tell you this when they sell the policies. So suppose you've bought an endowment policy for 15 years, okay? They say premium paying term is 5 years, but actually it's a 15-year policy. So you pay the first year, and then you realize this is not what you want, and you don't pay the second year. What do you think you get back? Zero, nothing. You've paid 2 premiums, year 1, year 2. You don't pay the 3, you've paid 2 lakh. What you get back? 60,000. It's a capital loss. We're not even talking returns here. We're talking capital loss. The insurance regulator allows this. 3 years, 3 lakh you've put in. How much do you get back? I don't want to pay the 4th premium. You get back 1 lakh. 5 years, you don't pay the 6th premium. You get back half your money. It's a deep capital loss. We're not even talking of a return. And this is the saddest graph, which for some reason we've not been able to sort of convince the regulator that these rules are toxic for us as retail investors. So I can only tell you, don't buy these products. The blue line is your investment, and the red line is what you get back every year that you, at the point that you surrender the policy, whether it's the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, right till the end of the policy term, even if it is 1 year before the end of the policy, you are making a capital loss. You're not even getting back what you had put in, and this is like over a 15-year period. Even a fixed deposit or a PPF would have given you much more. What happens to the money? Insurance companies are allowed to book lapsation profits on them. So it is in the interest of the company that you surrender your policies early. The agent only wants to sell you a new policy. Your loss is their gain. And how do we know that? How many policies are alive 5 years after they are sold? Less than half. That's the shocking statistic, which means less than half the policies sold in a particular year are alive after 5 years, which means they're not being funded. What has happened to the money? It's gone to the company. The agent has taken the first year commission. Yeah, so this is a regulatory problem which the regulator needs to solve. And then it comes to my favorite topic, equity. I think equity is a great asset class which all of us should understand, and I'm not talking day trading. I am not talking derivatives. I'm talking there is a safe way to give your money the growth that equity market in India allows us. We have one of the best regulated markets in the world. You have to believe that the securities market in India is technologically, in terms of compliances, in terms of the processes put in, is state of the art. And why am I saying that you must long-term invest in equity? Because let's do this experiment. 40 years ago, 1980-81, you put 1 lakh in gold, you bought gold, you you invested in a fixed deposit, you invested in a public provident fund, and you bought the Sensex. Sensex is a 30 stock index in the Indian stock market on the Bombay Stock Exchange. Okay, so in 1980, there wasn't index funds, but it's a thought experiment. You bought the Sensex. What happened? Gold, 1 lakh invested in 2022 is worth 35 lakh. Remember, gold doesn't, it's not a compounding instrument. When the value falls, your money falls, and then it goes back up. So 1 lakh has become 35 lakh. PPF is a compounding instrument, so it's become 47 lakh. FDs have become 34 lakh because when 81 it started, interest rates were very high at 10%, inflation was at 12, but that's a separate story. This is what happens to stock markets long term. We were in lakhs there. This is 3.3 crore, and all you had to do was hold the index. You had to do nothing else. No fund manager, nothing. You just have to hold the index through an index fund. This is the difference between fixed return, safe investments. You want to be safe, or you want to safely grow your money, which is investing long term, using the Indian stock markets through index-based investing. It is cheap, it is safe, but you have to hold long term. When events like 2020 March happen, when the markets fall, you do not redeem. You just hold on. In fact, you invest more. And this is a very important thing. So I'm not going to go into the maths of this. But what you need to see in this, the blue line is, so start at the top, 1 year gain 108%. So in these 40 years, there was 1 year in which you doubled your money. But there was 1 year in which you lost half of your money because you held for a year. Now I'm increasing holding period to 2 years, 3 years. There was a 3-year period. There was one 3-year period in which your money grew 60%. But there was also a 3-year period, and we don't know when these periods will come, where you lost some money. Between 7 to 10 years, we can say with confidence that there is no 7 to 10, depending on when you do this data, okay? There is no 7 to 10-year period in which you lost money on index investing. These are powerful statements to make. No matter which day. So people say, is it a good time? Every day is a good time. No matter when you invested, there is no 7 to 10-year period in which you lost money if you were holding on to the index. Average return, 14.5%. It's a powerful way of growing your money over the long term. And how long is long term? 7 to 10 years. You have to keep the faith. People will tell you India is going to the dog, something is happening. Nothing. We are an outlier. We are the only country in the top 20 countries who's going to, not go into a recession. We are the only country where inflation is up, but not by that much. So you have to keep the faith that growth is here. It's going to be there for the next 20, 30 years. This growth gets reflected on the stock market. How do you participate? Through entry level, buying an index fund. This is the composition of the index. So if you don't understand index, quickly Google it later. What is an index? It's made up, BSE Sensex is 30 stocks, Nifty 50, broad market index is 50 stocks. These are the best, most liquid stocks. It'll have Reliance, it'll have TCS, it'll have, now it'll have, the pharma companies. It'll have different companies which reflect the state of the market in that time. So when we're at 85, the composition of the Sensex had more companies in low value-added stuff like material. Okay, and then you see 91 opening up happens, and you see financials come in, banks, mutual funds, insurance companies. They start to make an appearance in the index. We've done nothing. I'm not buying and selling. I'm holding on to an index. The index composition itself changes according to a formula so that you are constantly holding the most sunrise sectors with some of the best companies in it at a very low cost. So the problem of conflicts of interest goes away. There is nothing that anybody can tell you which benefits them because it's an index. You choose an index fund with a low expense ratio, just write it down and Google it. Low expense ratio and low tracking error, okay? You Google tracking error also. So two things, low expense ratio, low tracking error. We don't want our index fund to outperform the index. We want it to track it. It has to completely mimic the index because that's what we are buying. Last thing, this is about asset allocation. So when you start on this journey, we are thinking of, we are never asking this question, is it a good time to buy small caps? Is it a good time to buy equity? It's always a good time. It's like the Indian thali meal. We need little bit of everything. I need my protein, I need my carbohydrate, I need fat, I need sweet, I need all of that. So you can never say that is this a good time? It's always a good time. Will a 70-year-old's diet be similar to a 17-year-old's diet? No. Similarly in our portfolios. Very basic rule of thumb. This is your basic asset allocation. This is your golden rule, where people constantly, you never have to ask this question, should I sell now? Should I buy now? You have to decide how much risk you can take with your money. And a simple way to decide that is to take your age and say 100 minus my age is my allocation to equity. That's one of the rules. A second rule is, the further the goal is away from today, the more allocation I can give to equity. I need a runway of 7 to 10 years. The closer the goal is from today, the lesser the allocation to equity. If my goal is 3 years away, 0 in equity. If I'm saving for my retirement 20 years later, it's 100% in equity. So it averages out into saying 100 minus my age is my allocation to equity. So a 20-year-old will have 80% in equity, and an 80-year-old will have still 20% in equity. You need that equity lift because of inflation. As your portfolio matures, there is an allocation for gold. Jewelry is not investment, I don't count it. Gold is a good emergency product to have. When things go to hell, like the way it has been, gold becomes sort of that thing that you can hold on to. Gold ETFs are there. Gold, people like to buy gold bars. There's also the sovereign government gold bonds, which actually give you interest and give you a long-term capital gain holiday. Okay, sovereign gold bonds are also there. 5 to 10% of your portfolio is good. And then, as your portfolio grows, you must do geographical diversification. Buy, and I like funds again because I don't have to open new accounts with brokers. Through funds, stocks from other geographies, especially the US, Europe, not so much, but definitely the tech companies of US, because that's where the innovation happens. But a geographical diversification is important as your portfolio grows beyond a certain size, because now we are trying to keep the portfolio from taking too much risk. We don't want concentration of the portfolio. I've said this already. Okay, now this is the last thing. All of you go back home and ask, what are the assets that we have? In whose name are these assets? These are very tough questions at home, especially if you live in a joint family. At some point, you'll have to get the courage and the ability to ask these questions. What are the assets? In whose name are these assets? If there's a property in joint, what is my share of the property? It's not enough to tell me it's joint. Am I 20% owner or 50% owner? Ask these questions. And if there's hesitation, it's a red flag in my head. I manage all the money in my family for my husband, for my father, for my mother-in-law. And I'm more than happy to answer any question. If someone's hesitating in answering the question, in whose name is it and what percent do I own, for me it's a red flag. There's a problem. Make sure that you know there are nominations in every product. Bank deposits, fixed deposits, PPF, any financial product has to have a nomination. Is there a will? You don't need to register it. Please get a will made. wills are very emotionally difficult things. If you need, get somebody from outside to sit in. Because the old people say, you want me to die? The answer is no. But like Yudhishthir answered the question, that one of the wonders of the world, I don't know if you know the story, when all his brothers are dead and he's at the pool and the yaksh is saying, what is the biggest mystery of the world? What does Yudhishthir say? The biggest mystery of the world is that when we are born, we know we are going to die, but we never believe it. So somewhere you have to do the conversation that we'll all die. Whether it's a fan falling on my head or an accident or COVID or old age, we don't know. So this whole emotional drama around death somewhere is just overdone. Okay, so if to take that out, yeah, we'll all die at some point, and yeah, it's tough, sucks, but we will. So wills are important. This is, again, if I die before you file, if you really love your spouse and your kids. So since I manage everything, I'm obsessive about writing down stuff so that suppose I don't come back one day, my husband and my daughter have a book which they will, and they know what that book that is. Everything is documented, what products, what passwords now, everything, okay? COVID again taught us that you can suddenly not be there. You cannot whisper passwords when you're dead, nor can somebody whisper them to you. So these are somewhere tough conversations to have, but again, this emotional drama is too much around death. We need to just not get into that emotional nonsense. So this, if I die before you file, I've written about it. If you Google Monika Halan, if I die before you, there'll be a series of 4 or 5 blogs. You will get the resources. How do you create it? What you do? How do you maintain this? And where are the papers of all of the assets that we have? And that's it. Happy to take questions. I'm sorry, when I speak, it seems a little tough, but you don't want to be in a situation where you say, I wish I had asked. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Monika ji. I request Chairperson Ms. Shubhra Maheshwari to please join Monika ji on dais. The floor is now open for question and answers. Please mention your name before you ask your question.
Hi, my name is Ishita.
There's a question.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So you're talking about insurance policies. So these days there are options of market-linked policies. What do you think of those? Market-linked policies, insurance policies.
The unit-linked policies. Okay, the story is that SEBI as a regulator has done exemplary work in regulating mutual funds. And I know personally because I've been in the mutual fund committee for almost 12 years, last year. But under the bonnet, the sort of consumer protection which has happened in mutual funds, I am not seeing it in the ULIPs in terms of benchmarks, in terms of portfolio disclosures. I don't see that kind of rigor in the ULIP policies as I see in mutual funds. So there is a tax advantage, I understand that, of the switching. But overall, I prefer the freedom of being in a fund, and if the fund is not performing, of switching and moving to something else. Costs are front-loaded in an insurance policy. So if you find that your policy is not doing well in terms of the asset, you'll have to surrender it and move to another one. ULIPs don't have large surrender costs, okay? So that's a different thing. So overall, I prefer mutual funds because of the flexibility.
Sorry. The last investment option you mentioned, which has come up in the last few years, insurance-linked investments, where you pay for 5 years and then you enjoy benefits. You just give us a breakup of how disastrous they are and how partially the government has looked at the investment center and given us such bad policies. All of us were not aware of it. Why do you think the government has done that? When it is regulating everything so carefully, why is so much leeway being given? And actually, all of us are being cheated. You're quite right. Third year, they come and tell you to return the policy.
Correct.
Surrender it.
Correct.
So, why is it that the government is so lenient towards it? Is it because high load of foreign investment is there in it?
No.
Are they pampering the foreign investors?
No, not at all. In fact, there are more foreign investors and companies in the mutual fund industry, which is very tightly regulated, than insurance. So let me just tell you the insurance story. So we were a government-controlled country till 91, and then it opened up, right? So we allowed private sector to come in. This transition from socialism to market economy comes with independent regulators being set, right? So there is a SEBI for capital markets, there's IRDA, there's RBI, there's PFRDA. IRDA is here in Hyderabad, and for a variety of historical reasons, IRDA, so insurance is a technical subject, not many people understand the products and what's really the composition. The insurance industry has been able to sort of hoodwink both the government and the regulator for a fairly long time in terms of what the policy does and why there is no requirement of change. There's also a very large agency population which always comes up in terms of what will happen to their livelihoods. There is no big consumer movement of India which says, what happens to me as consumer? Right? As an investor, what happens to me? I would look at it as a failure of the regulator. So the government, we say that regulators need to be independent. The formation of the regulator is this action that you regulate this industry, you make it good for so rules can't be so tight that nobody makes profit. Profits are good, but it can't be at the expense of individuals. It has to, we all have to grow together. That's a piece which has sort of just, for a variety of historical reasons, has not happened. All I can tell you is that there is a new chairperson in IRDA. We are expecting some changes. That's what I can say.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Radhika Agarwal. I just wanted to understand what percentage of our investment should go in shares and mutual funds. Both are equities.
Yeah, so mutual funds is a route which can take your money into either stocks or bonds or gold or combinations of the three. Okay, so remember, there's debt, equity, and real assets. There isn't shares and mutual funds. There is debt, equity, and real. Mutual funds are in all three now. You have debt funds, you have equity funds, and now you have also real estate REITs, and they are gold ETFs. So if I understand your question correctly, it's that what percentage should be in stocks, in equity?
Right.
100 minus your age. Whichever route of equity that you choose, whether it's direct or through funds, it is 100 minus your age. Okay?
Thank you.
My name is Kavita Rai. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to understand which stands better, will versus nomination. Like, you know,
Both.
no, like, you know, like when we're opening a bank account, we give a nominee. When we doing a life insurance, we have a nominee. But at the time of making a will, we say, okay, all the assets after us belong to my spouse. So if they clash, if there's difference between will versus nomination, which will stand
Most
better?
banks will look at the nomination.
Nomination.
Most banks will
For
look at the
everything, I guess, then.
Yeah, nomination, so will has to be presented. Nomination exists with the financial company.
Right.
So unless somebody comes and contests the nomination, most people don't even make will. So the bank or the mutual fund will not even know if there's a will. They will simply hand it over to the nominee.
Right.
It's only when there's a clash between the person named in the will, and this has happened, and the nominee, then it goes into a spin.
Yeah, because when you're younger, then you really don't think, okay, this deposit is for this child, this is for the other child, and later on
Yeah.
you make a will, not realizing where all your nominees
Yeah,
are.
so it
Different
helps to
nominees and
have
different.
a certain document where you keep putting these things down.
Right.
XYZ FD, nominee so and so.
Right.
When you're making a will, at a glance, you know what you need to change in the nominee.
Right,
You can go
right.
back and change your nominee.
Right. Sure. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Monika ji, for patiently. Sarita.
Good evening, everyone. I have a quick question. So I just want to know if you can elaborate more on the index funds that you have mentioned about, like how do we actually invest in that and what is the procedure for that?
Okay, so mutual
Thank you.
funds are of two kinds. One is funds which mimic an index, and remember, there can be 100 indices. Okay, you can have a small cap index, you can have a mid cap index, you can have a banking index. The first product that we buy is a broad market index, which is the largest companies which show up on the Sensex and the Nifty 50. So let's assume that we are doing only broad market index. That's the first product we are going to buy. And you've shortlisted bases, low tracking error, low expense ratio. There are 10 basis points, funds which cost that little per year. You can buy it directly, which means if you're buying it yourself, there are platforms like Mutual Fund Utility, MFU, which has been set up by all the mutual funds getting together. It's not privately held. All the funds have got together and said MFU online, Mutual Fund Utility online. The site is a bit clunky, but it costs you nothing to use it to buy and maintain your portfolio. There are two kinds of mutual funds. It's called regular and direct. You'll have to research just a bit. So regular, just keep putting these words down. Regular is usually sold by an agent and there is a commission embedded in the cost. Direct, the commissions have been removed because you're buying it directly. So if you're doing it yourself, you buy the XYZ index D, direct plan, which means it's cheaper. So one way to do it is that there are private companies which use apps which are very good. I don't want to take a particular name of any company, but some of the apps are good. You should research. But the safest way would be through a mutual fund utility because it's not owned by one company, it's owned by the industry. And you can start investing like that. So that's your first product. Once you get confidence, then you have to build a portfolio. You don't just stay with one product. For growth, you will build more. But it's good enough to start and taste it for a couple of years and see how you feel. Most people, after 2 years, start investing very confidently on their own, especially women. We are very good investors, okay, because we don't let our egos come in the middle.
Any more questions? Tej? No. Okay. Fine. Thank you, Monika ji, for patiently addressing all our queries. I request Ms. Shashmita Yelleni from the committee to bring the autograph sheet for our esteemed speaker's autograph. I request Joint Secretary Ms. Shilpa Raju to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. As we wrap up this engaging and informative session, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our phenomenal speakers, Dr. Anil Lamba and Ms. Monika Halan, for insights into how we can make informed and educated decisions about our professional as well as personal finances. Thank you, Dr. Lamba, for reiterating the fact that there is a direct relationship between every action we take and the bottom line of our organization, and for demystifying the rules of good financial management. We will always remember, less is bad, but more is worse. Thank you, Ms. Monika Halan, for giving us tips and guidance on how to ask the right questions and make some important investment decisions so that we can build sustainable financial securities in our personal life. Your 6 habits are truly eye-opening and yet easy to follow. We will all definitely remember and incorporate this into our lives. It's an honor to have you both here today, and we would like to extend our gratitude to our wonderful sponsors, Argentum Arts, our platinum sponsor, Freedom Rice Bran Oil, our diamond sponsor, and RBC Worldwide, our creative partners. Thank you, press and media, for always supporting us and calling attention to the impactful programs conducted by Flow Hyderabad. Thank you to our PCCs for always guiding and encouraging us to think bigger and better. Thank you to all the teams who have worked tirelessly to bring this event to you and more. And of course, to all our Flow members who enthusiastically participate in all events, which only strengthens our resolve to aim higher and bring you better. Alone, we are strong, but together, we are stronger. And we are all finance people. So she is? Yes. We look forward to seeing you all at our next event and request you all to please join for high tea. Thank you. We would also like to hear your feedback on the events and any suggestions for upcoming events. So there is a suggestion box outside at the in-hub table, so we request you to please drop that there. Thank you so much. And we are planning a retirement session very soon. So there's a lot in the pipeline, so please keep encouraging us by joining here. Thank you, ladies.